Welcome to the pod, Matt. You're watching or listening to the MaateCast. Nice.
Wow, that was good.
Welcome to another episode, everybody. It is episode 13 of the MaateCast, and we have a very special guest today. I mean, do we have anything to say before we get started? Milsy's a bit under the weather.
I will try and stay as positive as I can, but yes, I'm a little bit sick. I've come down with flu-like symptoms, so I'll try not to cough into the mic and stuff like that. But we have a guest today that needs no introduction, I think. He does, but
Well, that's what I was going to say, is I didn't actually write an introduction because he needs no introduction.
No introduction. We all know him.
Yes.
You all know him.
You all know him. This man helps bring me to life. And he's here today to talk about his life, a bit of business, a bit of God, and more. Please welcome Ryan the Legend. Ryan. Dad. Hey, Dad.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, please.
That's great.
Probably shouldn't have
No
done
worries. That's good. It's great to be here.
Welcome to the podcast, Father.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. You were actually highly requested.
Oh, really?
It seems.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
The people ask and they receive, and that is what we're doing today. How have you been? How have you been, Dad?
Been good.
Yeah.
Busy. I suppose coming to the end of another year. I think we're under 4 months now till Christmas, so that's
messed up.
That's a pretty big
up.
realization. And it's not just Christmas; it's Christmas 2023. That's hard
Weird
to comprehend at the moment. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we're getting old now, I feel.
Yeah,
You know, starting to feel that, like, talking about 2012, 2011, and then it's like, damn, that was a long time ago now. Like, and then 4 months until Christmas is not okay.
Yeah, and then it's 2024.
Yeah,
It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right.
It's going quick.
Yeah.
First year out
Yeah.
of school for us.
Yeah.
And it's like all
Has
the
that
year
been
12s.
life-changing?
Has it been life-changing?
It
kind of has been.
It has been definitely life-changing. I did not expect to be in the position I'm in now after school. But even to say that I'm out of school is weird. Like, to say that 2022 was last year is still weird to me. Because, like, it feels like we were in grade 6 yesterday, to be honest. So,
Yeah, time is flying. Life is moving.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know all about life, you know, because you're older than us.
Yeah.
If you couldn't tell.
I was waiting for the jib. That's all right.
No, that is partly why we have you on and why we like to, what was good about Miss Mac is because, you know, you're older and you have wisdom, and a lot of our audience is people in school or, like, just got out of school, because that's kind of our friend group. So we thought it'd be good to have you on and ask you a bunch of stuff, starting with, because our audience is in school.
Right.
I'd love to know a little bit about your schooling, because not even I really know much
about it.
Yeah.
How far back do you want to go?
Let's just go.
Is this where it does this, and then we fade back to a play of me at school? Not really.
Are we filming a play? You'd like to film a play?
I think that's what the people would want.
The people would love that.
wow.
I don't know if we have that in the budget.
Yeah,
or
that's right.
you know, we're pretty
Or the
busy.
time
You know
frame.
how it is.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
you're
right.
busy with.
Well, I appreciate it. You tried. At least you tried. You considered it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a thought. What do you reckon?
Let's just go with, like, throughout school, what was your fondest memory that comes to mind?
And did you enjoy school in general?
I loved the social aspect of school. So especially coming towards the end, like year 10, 11 and 12, I was very aware that this season was going to end, where I literally get up in the morning, I ride my mountain bike or whatever to school. We get there early so we can shoot basketball and play all around before school starts. Get sweaty because we're up in North Queensland in Mackay. Go into class, sit with my best mates, muck around. We had great teachers that we had good relationship with, that we hung out with even outside of school. You'd have morning tea, go play all of morning tea because you didn't want to waste that time. Try and eat your lunch on your way back in, and then go to lunch, play all through lunch, get to class like as close to start time as possible, and then hang around after school playing for an hour or so. So I knew once school finished, that season was done. So I thoroughly enjoyed making sure that I was playing, mucking around, school marks. Let's just say year 10, I realised that you actually had to work to get good grades. I'd actually been pretty good until then, like easy to get A's, etc. Loved maths, loved all that sort of stuff. And then we got into year 11 and I went into maths 1 because I loved maths. And I was too, I'll say now, immature. Back then I just thought I was too smart. But because I could do a lot of the calculations without the steps, I didn't understand how I could be marked down on an exam because I didn't show all the steps, but I had the right answer. So I just went, this is not for me. I'm going back to maths. Maths A, I don't know what that is now, but that's the simple maths. That's the 1 + 1, 2. That's what I went back to. And then I just, assignments, they were meant to be done the day before. And by day before, I mean 8:30, 10 o'clock at night. Start, do what you can, and I'd still get by. I'd still get a C+ or a B or whatever. So I just enjoyed the social. Of school.
Not much has changed then from when you were going to school to when we were going.
From what you're saying, it sounds very similar to how we treated it.
I thought you were saying not much has changed. You go to work to hang out with people. That's pretty well it.
Just no basketball.
No basketball. The shoulder doesn't enjoy that anymore.
Sounds like you enjoyed school. And you were school captain, right?
Yes. I was school captain with your mother.
That's
who
crazy.
wasn't...
I never think about
I think I knew this.
Not even, like, I've heard it so many times, but I always forget that it was an actual thing.
Wow.
Because it's like, it's pretty cool.
And that was in Mackay.
It was in Mackay, yes. So Mackay Christian College, shout out, 40 years this year.
Gang.
Wow.
Crazy. I was a foundation student of Mackay Christian College, so we set it up, I suppose, for success. But your mother and I were school captains. I don't know how deep you want to go into that one.
I mean, like, not very deep, but also, like, what was that like? Well, you were dating.
No, you
weren't dating?
No. So your mother came to our school, I think, in somewhere through year 10.
I think
that'll be fact checked later.
Yeah.
But somewhere through year 10, and we didn't. I still remember the day she rocked up. We came around the corner. It was a big brick building. I was coming one way, and you always hear about the new girl coming to school. It's like, oh, who's the new girl? And she came around the corner, and we sort of met each other. And I was like, oh, she's a bit of all right, but she didn't like me because I was a bit of a jock, maybe, I don't know, like sports focused, whereas she was very academic focused, so she didn't like me. She thought I was shallow. She thought I was shallow and didn't have any prospects in life, I suppose. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Look at you.
Look at she snapped. I proved her wrong. But so we were made school captain in the start of '95, and still not a thing. And it wasn't until, I don't know, towards the end, one of my best mates and I were in a debating, like one of our classes was debating, and the same teacher had us for modern history, so there's not much to learn in modern history in year 12 in the last two terms.
Nothing has changed.
So English and modern history, so we were going to be put into teams, etc., and it was all done randomly, actually, to get Namaka, that's my mate's name, who means chief. He's from South Sea Islands, great guy. My name is Ryan, it means little king, so we were like, we got on really well. We kept saying that we were twins. We had a cool thing that we'd do where it's like, this is how we know. What number am I thinking of?
Do I have to say it?
Yeah, say a number.
2.
That's exactly right. And that's how we proved that we're twins, which frustrated a lot of people. Mostly our English teacher, who was purposely trying to separate us from being on the same team in the debating class. So he had devised this amazing random number selection where you'd pick a number and that would equate to someone's name that we couldn't see, and then that person would pick a number, etc. Anyway, long story short, I picked a number as first member of the team, and that got Namaka in, which my teacher was already upset about. And at that stage, Jenni was going, "Don't let them pick me. I will not be on their team." And we were going through the numbers. It was 5. That's already been picked. 6. That's already been picked. And Namaka and I looked at each other and we were like, "Lucky number 7." And we said number 7, and Mr. Modlin, Russell Modlin, shout out, turned around to the board and wrote Jenni's name in our group. She actually put in a formal complaint to be removed from our group. But it was at that time that Namaka decided to take a bit of time off school around that. Well, there wasn't much use of going. We'd already done all the other stuff. Yeah. So Jenni and I would be in English and or modern history classes where we're supposed to be working on our debate together. And she was just a tremendous flirt. Like, couldn't keep her hands to herself. Was stealing my pencils all the time.
Classic. The classic move.
That's how it goes.
All the touchy, pinching, you know, all that sort of stuff.
I'm sure you were dabbling back as well. You were playing it cool.
Oh, no, I was playing straight laced. I was always respectful in that regard.
Yes.
And, try to keep it settled. But, needless to say, that got us to know each other. And,
So that was like towards the end of year 12.
Yes.
And then you started dating. Were you were in school still, or?
Yeah, we were still in school.
It was more of like
I was going to Wollongong. She was going to uni. Again, going back to what we were doing, I'd had a dream or a desire, I suppose, to be full time in youth or church or whatever, and was going to move to Wollongong under a mate of mine, Kevin Wilcox. He was going to take me in, and he was a pastor of a church down there, and I was just going to live with them and do whatever. Jenni was going to Brisbane to study speech pathology, or to do a Bachelor of Arts and then speech pathology. And I remember saying to her, because we were getting a bit close and sort of feeling some stuff, but going, well, I'm going to Wollongong next year. And apparently there's heaps of chicks in Wollongong. That's what I've been told. And Jenni was going to Brisbane next year. So we just talked about it and said, hey, if this had happened a year before, maybe we could have done something about it. But now it's only a couple of months until the end of the year. We should just cool it. That was like throwing petrol on a fire, because it was all of a sudden, it wasn't an assumption that she liked me or that I liked her anymore. We knew that we liked each other, and that just unleashed.
And then you just didn't, I mean, obviously you kept going.
Yes, we still went.
Like you went to Wollongong, Mum went to Brisbane, but for some reason you still both chose to.
Yeah, and this is back in the dark ages for a lot of the people that are watching, where you didn't have mobile phones. Stone Ages. To make a phone call from a landline from Wollongong to Brisbane, I would do 1 hour a week at the most, and I would still get a $300+ bill.
Wow.
And
$300.
$300.
Back in the day, that was a lot as well.
That's a lot of money. And I was working as a sales trainee on like $270 a week. So it was like, that was a big commitment.
Yeah.
I know Jenni's brother flew her down once, I think for my birthday, just to say hello and that sort of stuff. And then she moved the following year down to Wollongong. But yeah, like when I said the fuel was put on the fire, that meant that our last, like once school finished, year 12 finished, whenever that was, until I left early January, we were literally we would spend 5, 6 hours, 7 hours a day talking, not talking, actually talking, and building relationship. And that, I think, is what gave us that foundation, that even though we were apart, we'd created and built a foundation of friendship and that sort of stuff that held us in that regard.
Because that is a massive thing.
No FaceTime?
No FaceTime, no texting.
No Instagram, no
a little
Facebook,
bit a week.
no Messenger. Yeah.
Like, I mean, it would have been, I want to say it would have been better back then, like, or easier to trust, because you don't know anything else. Like, it's either you trust or you don't.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what it would be like.
We were probably, I was naive. Like, I think I found it interesting within the church I was at and group. We had all these, I would be telling Jenni, oh yeah, because a mate of mine and I were living together as bachelors. We had ladies or girls from the youth group coming, and they would cook us dinner. They would clean our house for us. They'd talk to us every time we rock up at church or youth, etc. And then I noticed, weirdly enough, that once Jenni came and visited and went to a youth night and met a few of the people at church, none of these girls came and said hello while she was there, and none of them. And I realised, when she wasn't in existence, so to speak, well, he's fair game. And I was just naive. I'm like, oh, cool. You want to come cook dinner? Sweet. Take advantage. And we did that. And then the other side of it was, I remember your mum telling me that she had been at some barbecue and she got thrown in the pool 3 times. And I'm a male. And let's not stereotype and typecast too much, but the girl that usually gets thrown in the pool 3 times is not the girl that you hate. It's the girl that you like, that you're throwing in the pool 3 times. So I still remember ringing my mate that lived on the Gold Coast, who was a couple of years older than me, and finding out information to try and go, you know what, if we have to go visit this guy to get him to back off and let him know that she's mine. So yeah, there was still those sort of things.
Okay.
There were testing times, I suppose, like any relationship, where you got to decide, no, I'm going to keep pursuing this, because it wasn't always easy. It wasn't always enjoyable.
Because you did
a year.
A whole year of long distance.
Yeah. Saw each other, I think, twice, maybe 3 times in that year. Yeah, crazy now, thinking about it now.
Very different.
And that was like, when you started the long distance, was that you sort of were unsure? Because obviously it was first year out of school. And so was it like you were very committed, or you were very
I think
unsure?
My brothers say that I may have played the field a bit beforehand. Now, in saying that, I didn't. I just want to be clear. I just like talking to people. But I'd always had, especially after the previous girlfriend, who wasn't for a long period or anything, my headspace was, I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to play the market and see whether I like and test and try whatever. If I was going to go out with someone, it was with the intent that long term this is going to be the one. So for me, that was, even in our early discussions, was really weird. And I think we had the discussion a couple of years ago. It was, I look back on it, and it was wisdom from our own like leadership and youth pastors and parents around us and that sort of stuff. But I even remember having the chat with Jenni in the first 3 weeks that we decided we were going to date. We said, these are our guidelines, because I'm long haul going to get married. Hopefully it's to you if this is where we're going. And in saying that, though, if things don't work out, I don't want to ruin you for your future husband. And I don't want to sell short my future wife by having an experience with someone else that I don't have an intention of carrying through with. So that sort of set us up from the start as to going, these are our expectations. This is what we're here for. There's no question mark on to how long. If we're going to date, we're looking to date and become husband and wife. Yeah. So yeah, it was a bit different. And in saying that, like even when we were in Wollongong, our youth pastors at the time pulled us aside at one stage because we were a little too familiar, you could say, and they were catching on to that, and they're like, hey, you're grey in the areas, you're going to end up whatever. So that was good for us, because we wanted to both respect each other and honour each other and being virgins when we got married, etc. And again, even though knowing, she's the one, still wanted to make sure I honoured that coming into it, and that was hard.
Yeah, like
that's what she said. But it's like it was like I can tell you, and Jenni said that we made it by the skin of our teeth. Like, we couldn't have. I don't think we could have went another 6 months.
Yeah.
But that's cool, because for us that was part of honouring God and honouring each other in that regard. So it was cool that we made it.
And what were like some stuff? Well, were there specific things you were doing like? True, because obviously you had guidelines, but then like when once you're deep in the relationship, some of them fall out. Well, we got used to, because we had cars, so you could sit in the cars out the front of the house, because you weren't allowed in the room alone with her. So it was like cool. Or we'd go out with other couples that were they were already jumping the line, and so they would just leave you in the lounge room by yourselves, and so that protection had disappeared. So there's that exposure, and just I suppose being
together for the first time, at least when we were in Mackay. Like, I still remember Andrew, Jenny's dad, we parked out the front a couple of 20 minutes early. 20 minutes early, because I had to have Jenny home by a certain time. We parked out the front 20 minutes early, and we were entangled in a deep conversation with our tongues, and a car pulled up behind us and put their high beams on, and we were like, what is this idiot doing? How dare they? Oh, stuff them, let's just ignore them. And we just kept on kissing, only to see a person get out of the passenger side that had a figure like Jenny's dad walk past our car, up the stairs of the house that they were in at the time, and go inside. And immediately fear filled my life. And I was like, oh, I've got to walk you up there and whatever. So that was like a pretty... one of those wake-up calls, because we were like pushing the envelope, thinking that we were all good. And even though someone had pulled up behind us, we're like, we're fine. So that added to a whole other story. I still remember Andrew's, we call it speech at the wedding, and he was... This
is Mum's dad, just to clarify.
He was very, very clear. In the run-up to the wedding, we were doing it too early. We'd moved the date forward by 6 months, which puts a lot of pressure on the bride's parents in that regard as well. Even though we didn't have like a massive... exuberant like wedding, there's still a lot of pressure, etc. And we didn't have a lot of conversations before. I'd stand there in the room, in the lounge room, and Andrew and Jenny's brother Peter would just stand there or sit there watching TV, and I'd be like, hey, how's it going? They were making... there was no question mark that they didn't overly like me at the time. And I remember him doing the speech and basically saying that it had been no secret that he didn't like me, that I wasn't up to her standards, etc. But he finished it really well. He came around and just said, but this is because it's my daughter. And he said, and no man will ever be good enough for my daughter. And that's what I've had to think. And then he went on to say how great I was and how awesome.
Wow.
Probably not in those exact words. But yeah, and we've obviously developed a great relationship since then. We've lived with them in the house and over the years, and they've come to live with us. So it's worked its way out.
Yes. Yeah, but those would have been some interesting times for you, I can imagine.
Yeah, we were 19.
Yeah.
So that even sounds freaky.
Yeah, no,
in that regard.
That's literally us.
That
is us.
Yeah.
But no, that would be a scary thing. Like if Hannah's dad, I don't know. If that happened to me, I don't even know what I'd do. Like, what do you do? Like, do you remember seeing him?
Oh, I do.
How could I forget?
Yes. And
those eyes.
Yeah.
I'll never forget them.
I've still got the scar. No. When he... I don't know, Dad had always raised me, and your granddad, win over the parents-in-law. And my behavioural style is a pleasing type style, like wants to please and keep people happy and make friends. So for me, I was at that age where I'm young. Some might say I'm slightly arrogant. At the time, I was confident, more confident than I probably should have been for my age. But that probably helped me, because I was like, well, it's just because he doesn't know me well enough yet. I'm a good guy. I've got great intentions for his daughter. I love her. I'm going to do my best for her. He just doesn't know that yet. So I understand. If I was a dad of a daughter, I'd want to castrate the guy and drag him out into the bush and bury him. That's natural as a father. So I can understand where he's coming from. I'm just going to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely I won.
Yeah, you did.
Nicely done.
And,
if we call it winning. Or he won. I don't know, whichever way.
Yeah, true.
He said on the wedding night, the one thing that he thought was great was, I think back then it was costing over $100,000 a year to have your daughter, etc. And he goes, that's no longer my thing, that's yours. And I'm like, what? Nobody told me about this. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
That's funny, yeah. And you've touched on it a bit, of your, faith. Yeah. And I'm sure pretty much everyone watching this probably knows a little bit about your faith. You chose not to have sex before marriage. You're very committed and all that. if you could go back a little bit, maybe do a quick testimony run of how you were, just like how you were brought up, just like context wise.
Yeah.
And then, then I'll just ask you a question after that. But like, if you could just quickly do a quick testimony for the people that don't know your backstory.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Raised in a Christian household. Mum and dad were associate pastors and then senior pastors of the church. They actually pastored for like nearly 40 something years. So raised in the house, and that could have been, I think for some people, I had mates that were raised in the house, but for whatever reason, their experience of what was happening was that's what happens on a Sunday, but it's not what happens in the house. My parents were what you saw on a Sunday was what they were every day. And so their heart and desire to be in the house, their heart to serve God, to outwork their calling, etc., it wasn't just Sunday, it was every day. So for me, I think I still remember being like 4 years old and being prayed for and feeling like wanting to be baptized, 4 or 5 years old. And we were heading in on the Sunday night because they did Sunday night baptisms. And we were driving around our street and I'm like, I'm getting baptized tonight. And Mum had forgotten my swimmers, I suppose, my shorts, my clothes. Mum, if you meet my mum, very pedantic on you must wear the right things at the right times. So they said, we'll just do it next week. And I remember just being absolutely an emotional wreck, just going, no, I want to do this week. And Dad turned around, went back, we got clothes and went in and I got baptized. I still remember driving home on a Sunday night after a church service. Holy Spirit had been moving, people were getting touched, etc. And I'm in the backseat of the old white XY Falcon on the vinyl seats, just going over Quarry Hill, the bridge there near the MCC school, and just singing out loud. I won't do it now.
Please.
But humble yourself in the sight of the Lord and he'll lift you up. But it was a revelation for me that if I actually humble myself, so I was in tears at like 6 or 7. Dad was running the youth group at one stage when I'm about 11, so same opportunities you had before you're old enough to be in youth group. You're the tag along. We were down the beach at the harbour. They're in a circle praying for people to be baptised in the Holy Spirit, and I'm like, yeah, and got smashed at that stage there, and that kicked into it, and then just numerous camps and different encounter meetings and being in that realm where you're in the house, so you continually Dad always says you got to be under the spout where the water comes out if you actually want to get water, and that was certainly true for us. We were in the house all the time, so you're getting fresh water, fresh manna, fresh touch, fresh encounters all the time, and that set me, I suppose, on a solid foundation, and has always played in, I suppose, because of that foundation, everything that we've outworked from there has had a core that's bigger than me, bigger than, Ryan feels this way at the moment. Well, no offense to Ryan, but screw Ryan and what he feels at times, because the foundation doesn't shift. So I can feel whatever I want, but the truth and the foundation doesn't shift. So I have to align myself with the truth and the foundation. And because I had that, that's made it easy to set things in motion.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so you had a very, obviously Christian upbringing, but yeah, very like your parents, pastors, all that, leading the church. So you grew up with all that. I think a lot of, especially people like listening, around our age and like teenage age, you start to actually think for yourself more so, because you're talking about when you're young and you're already thinking. Did you have a point when you were a teenager where you started to doubt things, or was like that foundation that you had, like, do you think that foundation was so strong and so present and you were constantly under the spout that you didn't like have a time where you were doubting?
I think everyone, if you sit down, you're going to have a doubt, because it's by faith that you're saved. So there's an element of I've got to believe and not necessarily see every time.
Yeah.
In saying that, did I have a doubt? I think
You didn't have a rebellious stage where you went out.
I didn't have a rebellious stage, but that was, I suppose, Yeah, no, well, I didn't even. I think on my 21st, a mate brought me a bottle of Jack Daniels, which is Johnny Walker. Sorry, which that was the first time I'd really had alcohol. I never had need. We used to get teased on the bus. I'm not teased, encouraged by other schools when we get on the bus. Me and my mate Namaka, they'd be like, "Oh, you've got to come to this party. You guys would be so much fun because you're already so much fun to be around. If we could just get you high, if we chucked you in a room and we just breathed on you with all the pot smoke and all that stuff, or if we got you drunk, if we popped you a couple of pills, you'd be so much funny." And we're like, "What for? I'm happy in myself. I enjoy life. We have a great time without that. Why would I?" And it occurred to me, for me, I wasn't searching, so I wasn't trying to fill a void. I didn't have any question marks in my relationship. Now, the habit that my parents had put in of being in church, being involved, taught me a lot of stuff that even when I moved to Wollongong, so first straight out of school, straight down there, I'm straight on the music team. I'm involved in youth, running the music and that sort of stuff, running connect groups. So you're entwined in it. There's less, I don't know, the old saying, if this is that full as it is now, there's room for something else. If you're filling yourself with God, then you don't have any other questions, is my regard. And it's one of those things, I think, as soon as you start sort of asking the question, well, how far can I walk out before I'm letting God down, or before you're missing the whole question? The reality is you should be going, how close can I get to God before I burn up, so to speak? Because that's like being married and saying, well, how much can I flirt before I'm actually doing something wrong by Jenni? How much can I go and do this before it's actually considered something wrong? So that, for me, it was just never an option. I was always engaged. I probably didn't, if you were really be honest, in that stage, I probably didn't have time to question, because we were running, I was at music practice on the Wednesday night. The Thursday night I was working because we did retail, so we worked 9 till 9. Some of you will understand that, some of you won't. Friday night was youth. Saturday, I think, was just work on car day. Sunday we were in the music band, so it was Sunday morning. You're there by 7 o'clock, 7:30. You're there for the 2 services. You go and have lunch, go for a drive, hang out with all the mates, and be back at church by 4 o'clock for the 6 p.m. service because you had music practice, etc. And then Monday was a day off, and Tuesday was connect group. So it was like you're just in. You're rolling. I know when Jenni and I got married and moved to Gold Coast from Wollongong, that first 3 months, we weren't involved in anything as far as locked in, serving, etc. And I remember we sort of, what would you say, it was the first time ever in my life that we didn't have to be at church as well as whatever. So we would go, we're going to go for a barbecue and do this and this on the Sunday morning. We'll go tonight. And then in the Arvo, you'd be hanging out with your mates, having lunch, and it gets later and later. And then it's like, next week. We'll go next week. And that turned into nearly 3 months. And it was like, I just clicked. I went, oh my gosh, I'm actually slipping away. I'm not actually involved. And it's not that my heart's changed, but I'm no longer engaged or being used by God in anything that I'm called to do because I'm not committed. And that taught me a lesson of going, okay, I'm going to be engaged, whether it's just sweeping the floors or helping stack chairs or something that keeps me coming back on the days when I don't feel. Because it's commitment's what gives you that strength to get through tough times and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so you wanted to go, because your heart was in it.
Yeah.
And you wanted to have something that would keep you coming back. Because at the end
Well,
of the
we're
day,
lazy.
you knew.
I'm human. And it is. It's like there's always a distraction. And one of the, if we really get down to it, the greatest thing that the devil can do is not necessarily, he doesn't need you to turn your back on God. What he wants is to actually make you ineffective in your Christian walk. So there's always going to be another excuse. There's always a big thing. And I had, I suppose, the privilege, or some days not the privilege, of being raised in the pastoral house, so to speak, because I've seen the fruit of every type of lifestyle. So that, in one regard, has actually been good, because I've seen the people that say, oh, this is why I can't make it on a Sunday now. This is why, the kids have got sport everywhere, da-da-da. And I've seen the fruit of that in their own life and how it works out. As opposed to I've seen the person that goes, well, this is our commitment. This is the importance we're showing is to the house of God, which then gets reflected in everything they do moving forward. And the fruit is totally different to the person that puts it as an option. If it's this is part of it, it's like how I was saying to you, I'm trying to get to make gym. It's not an option anymore. It's part of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
That will change my fitness level over the next 5 years. As opposed to, well, I don't have to go to the gym. I can exercise whenever I want. I can do stuff at home. I can do that. And I can. Do I? Probably not. So it's a similar thing. It's like there's practical sides to it. Like we often super spiritualize everything when there's actually a practical outworking that has to happen in that regard. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel that 100%. Sorry, we just had to take an intermission.
Miller's dying.
Miller is dying.
Practically.
Do you have anything you've been holding back, or should we move on to?
I think let's just get into business.
Yeah. We're gonna get into business now. We have a couple business questions for you, my father, because you're a businessman.
Oh, businessman.
You're a businessman. You're currently running a business. We'll get into it. To start, I mean, a bit of backstory on your working journey. I mean, I'm asking for, but like, quick backstory of the story I know, the story you know. Nothing too crazy, but just like where you started and where you are now.
Okay.
Is that a hard question?
Went young, started mowing lawns. As soon as I could get a job, I was working at Hungry Jack's, casual, best place to work at. Don't work at Macca's. The burgers are better at Hungry Jack's. It's not just advertising. Saved up for my sunglasses, bought my first pair of Oakleys. That was fantastic. Moved to Wollongong, and for 3 months was banging on doors. Basically picked out 5 places I'd like to work for, and just kept going back there. Spoke to the managers, kept saying, I want to work for you guys. Can I get a job? To the point where I ended up getting a traineeship at a place there where I worked for nearly 3 years in the end. Still talk to Bob and Donna, the owners. Just great people. Took me under their wing, I suppose, because I was only literally fresh out of school.
19.
I still remember that actually as part of a side thing on work. And Sicky's, obviously you're a bit sick now, which is fair enough. But I remember having my first Sicky when I wasn't actually sick, because your granddad had always said to me, sick days are for sick days. They're not a right. They're there as an insurance thing. And I've always had this drilled into me that you only use sick days when you're sick. It's not a free-for-all. I'm just going to take a day because I'm lazy. Sorry if that offends you. But I remember taking my first lazy sick day, and I was having a ball. It was like about 11 o'clock, and I had a little bit of a cold, nothing like what you're experiencing right now. And I'm got the music going, I've got the shirt off, I'm vacuuming, and my boss Bob rocks up at the door and is looking at me like this. And he had a bag of oranges and some other stuff, and was like, hey, Donna and I were just thinking you're so far away from your parents and it's hard being away and you're sick, so we thought we'd bring you these. Hope you get well soon. And I remember going, thanks, Bob. I sat down, and literally I think I've had now since that time, that's like, what was that, 96? That was 1996. I can count on one hand how many sick days I've had since then, and they've been legitimate, can't get out of bed, nearly dying, need to stay in bed sleeping type sick days. Because I was like, at that moment I'd betrayed the trust of my boss and upset him, and he had actually reached out to help me, and here I was faking a sickness when they needed me at work. So anyway, that's a whole side note. That taught me a lot.
Can imagine.
That's the thing. Went from there, Gold Coast, worked for a good mate of mine. We had a couple of mobile phone stores on the Gold Coast called the Phone Box, shout out. That was so much fun. And then we moved to Mackay in 2000 with the birth of your brother. started work, did 2.5, 3 years as a youth pastor there as full-time. Finances at the church weren't that good after about 10 months and went back to half a wage. So I was working part-time at Queensland Transport.
Nice.
And I can tell you the rumours are true. It could be run better. Anyway, then we went and I started work for a mate of mine just to look after his employees and some of his clients and help build that. And that at the time was a thing called Precision Earth Moving Repairs. It was a labour hire company. We don't like labour hire, we call it maintenance staffing, but we had started with 6 people and over the next, 7 or 8 years, grew that to 150, and I was running and planted 5 offices, running this place for him, etc. Then the GFC came to Australia, there was a couple of things that went wrong, and there was a massive strain on the business that my mate was running. Had a change of names to Down Under Mine Site Maintenance, helped him stabilize that for a few years. We just sort of plateaued. The progress or the time frame of when it was under pressure took a lot more out of us than we both thought it did. So we sort of just plateaued for about 6 years.
Just a light 6 years of plateauing.
Well, we thought we were all right. This is the cool part about man. We think we're doing better than we are 9 times out of 10. And then in 2015, I was like, wifey and I were just talking and felt like actually 2013, thought my season with Down Under was done, but we really didn't have any option as to what else we were going to do. And I thought, wow, maybe this is that ministry thing that we've had in our heart for years. Went and actually looked after a church up at Townsville for, I think it was about 8 weeks or 6 weeks or something like that, and just didn't feel any go with that. And then finished up in December of 2013 with Down Under Mine Site Maintenance and went into coaching, but really just in limbo for about 18 months, just trying to see what was the next step, praying like mad. That was a really successful financial year. I'd gone from really high paid sales and management role, etc., and started my own coaching business. And I think in the second year, or the first full year of billing, we billed just on $22,000. So needless to say, we were living with Jenni's parents for free. We were trying to make ends meet, and the dream of being this cool business coach was not playing out. And my mate was looking at getting out of Down Under Mine Site Maintenance, and he was speaking to me, and I tried to sell it for him, which he'd said, if you can get someone to buy it, I'll give you a percentage, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I was talking to a good friend of mine who was working for another group at the time, and he was looking for an option to get out, and we were going through what it was doing, the price that he wanted. The person that was doing my role since I'd left, great guy, but just didn't have the connections that this guy had. And I said, man, you would kill the pig. You'd go in there with all your connections, all your stuff, etc. It's already making great money. It's just turnkey, walk in and go. And he said to me, yeah, it looks like a great deal. I went, it is a great deal. And he goes, how come you're not looking at it? And I honestly hadn't looked at it, hadn't thought about it. Went back and talked to your mum. She was not keen because we had also made the decision to get out of it. Because of where you boys are at age-wise, we'd always committed that in that teenage years, because it took a lot. I used to travel away a lot for work, etc. I would be home, because that's the time when men, as a rule, if we say that as a blanket rule, in that teenage years need a lot more of that input from their father, I suppose, in that regard, or someone that's telling them this is where you're going, etc. So we had decided that we would be in that realm more. And buying a business and stepping back into what I'd been doing, she wasn't overly keen, but we thought, we can keep a good balance. I'll be the boss, so I'll be able to set my own time frames, all that sort of stuff. And went back and talked to the old boss, and he was like, I thought you were done. And I'd been offered other roles with competing companies, but just couldn't do it because I felt like, out of honour for where I'd worked and built up, I didn't want to go into competition with them. So I was done in that industry. But I said to him, but if you're done, I wouldn't mind having a crack. And really, really condensed story. We'd walked through some pretty terrible days in the business and personal with the previous owner, and he's a good mate of mine. And he just said, well, if you want to have a go, you looked after me through my crap times. I'll halve the sell price. We'll do a vendor we'll run for 7 months, because that would have been December, would have been ownership take on. So he said by June, end of financial year, if it's not working for both parties, you'll have had a good income for 6 or 7 months, but we can just shut it down, no holds barred. You don't have to owe me anything. We'll just shut the business. But if it makes under the profit to make the repayment, that's all I'll take. I won't take the full what we agreed on price, and if it makes over, that's yours. And
pretty good deal.
Yeah, well, it made it very hard to say no to. And we prayed about it, Jenni and I. We were just like, we think we should. Lord, do you think? Yes, good, okay. And we stepped into that, and God just opened up door after door. Clients that had been dormant for the 2 years that I've been out of the game returned really quickly, and we actually had, as a company, earned profit-wise what we needed to pay the previous owner by March.
Wow.
Damn.
So we still had April, May and June to go. And then that was a shifting, I suppose, over the last 8 years. This December's 8 years. And I'm still shifting my head from employee to owner to CEO type setting, and trying to come to grasp with what we've been able to do in our communities and abroad, because we took up this opportunity.
Sorry.
Yeah. Do you want turnovers? Does that make numbers make more sense for some people?
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Our young audience, I don't even know
okay.
how much they really get. They get the message.
Yeah.
I was just reading because I was about to get into the next question, which has come from somebody. I don't know. We won't say who, but they know who they are. They were asking about how you've balanced work life with God, because he's like noticing challenges in that area, because there's differences, like cultural differences, and I don't know, he was mentioning the cutthroat nature of business, and like how that can kind of affect your relationship with God and whatnot. So he was wondering, do you have an answer to balancing that and God?
So how
like, I guess the financial.
Yeah, how have I operated as a business and still tried to keep godly in a competitive market?
Yeah, exactly. And like, how have you not let the money and the, because once you got the job and you were getting more money, how are you balancing that with staying faithful to God? And
well, I think it's an interesting one, because a lot of people look at current photo and they go, wow, that's where you are. When in reality, it's been 25, 30 plus years of little lessons that have helped us. So it's like, I could, off the top of my head, I think of times where it didn't matter what I did, tithing, giving, etc. Your mother and I were deplorable with our finances, in massive credit card debt, no restraint, no control, no diligence. So we wouldn't have mattered if God had given us more or blessed us. We would have squandered it because we were not good with our money. Not saying that we're great with it now, but we are way better than what we used to be. So that adds into it. But as far as keeping a balance, there's an old saying a mate of mine said years ago was, money just reveals more of who you are. And so many people I talk to, when they're in the starting stages, will say things like, when I'm a millionaire, I'll help this charity. When I'm a millionaire, I'll be able to give this to the church. When I'm a millionaire, I'm going to be generous to our family. And they're doing nothing now. Which, not to be harsh, the reality is everyone has an opportunity, whether they're on the pension or whether they're a trillionaire, has the potential to be outworking what is called on their life to be a blessing to other people. If you're not being a blessing now, 99% sure you're not going to be a blessing when you've got it.
It's a bit of a reality check for everyone.
And so it's like, if you can't tithe now on your $500 a week, you're not going to tithe on $500,000 a week, because Another saying that I like, which is really resonates with me and helps me check my heart a lot, is it's all right to have money. The problem starts when money has you. And you know money has you when it dictates to you what you can and can't do.
It's that pause. Sorry, not to go off topic, but that how you paused in the middle there, just that's the preacher that speaker coming out. It's like I'm on the edge of my seat. I just wanted to point that out because you were just that speaker. I don't know if it comes from preaching.
Media trained or something.
You just know how to speak. I just really wanted to point that out.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. And it's just those habits. So I know now it's actually harder. There's more challenges and more constraints and more thought given to how much we give now than what there was when we were on next to nothing and struggling to make each week.
Yeah.
Mainly because back then it was like, well, we're not going to make ends meet anyway. So we need a miracle or we need a breakthrough. So we just give anyway and hope, almost unfortunately naively at times. Sometimes it was a heart obedience, like this is what you need to give in this scenario, and me just walking it out and the blessing flows. A lot of the times it was like a Hail Mary sort of thing, like we just throw, I hope we get through. And so that's been an interesting one as we've now got greater responsibilities. We've got 80 plus people working for us that depend on me having a cash flow and being wise with my finances so that I can pay them weekly while we wait 100 days to get paid from the work they did today. There's responsibility. It was easy when Mum and I didn't have kids that, hey, if things didn't work out and we end up sleeping in the Salika, it's an adventure. As soon as you have a child or a second child, the wife doesn't think that's an adventure to sleep in the car. So there's different responsibilities that now weigh heavier. But because we were committed to and disciplined back here, now even when the question arises, like we review every year what we're giving, what we're doing, where we're putting certain finance, etc. And I have a goal, I suppose, which we broke this year, earlier this year, and we have new goals, etc. to reach. However, I'm not trying to reach them out of a naivety, etc. of like, oh, I want to impress people or I want to do this to the detriment of the business or so there's a wisdom that now comes into it and a faith aspect. So it's like I've walked through it when I had, I still remember that one of the hardest, if we say offerings or times I had to give, was when we had next to no money. There was a breakthrough thing happening and they invited us to give out the front. We had to drop money into a wheelbarrow so everyone can see it. And I remember, I think Mum was pregnant either with you or Michael. So I'm like, I'm going down to give into breakthrough and I'm like, I got to use my credit card. And I felt literally this prompting, like we say, like God speaking to me, going, just give the $5 note. And I'm like, God, you don't understand. This is a breakthrough. Has to be something great, something that costs me. And I remember him saying, like feeling this thing going, but the credit card money is not your money to give. And I was like, oh. And I still going to put that $5 in. I thought if I hold it, sorry, it was a $10 note because it can be a bit green, so it look a bit maybe like a $100. And I was like, I'm going to put this in and do it. And I did this, and it flipped around and opened and sat on the side of it. So now I'm like, oh no! Everyone can see that it's just a $10 note at a breakthrough. But as soon as I did that, I felt a release in me because the reality is this: God doesn't need our money. He doesn't actually, it's not an issue with him. He's not up in heaven trying to chip off bits of the gold walls and going, oh, Gabriel, send some money down. We're running out. We got to make money somewhere. He's not doing that. He's got an abundance. What he's actually after is whether I can be obedient and whether my heart's engaged. And so he doesn't need my money. If I'd had $1 million at the time and I wanted to give $1 million and he's saying, just give 10. If I give the $1 million, I've been disobedient. I've given for the wrong reasons. So that testing back then 20 plus years ago is one that's held us instead that now when we've got the coin, I don't I don't have it. My identity's not in my car. My identity's not in the watch I wear. Even though I do like certain cars and I do like certain watches and I'm happy to drive around in whatever. What concerns me is if I'm being obedient in what God placed in my heart, if I'm being a good steward of what He's placed in my hand. So even we talk about, if you want to talk about struggles in giving, we bought the business in 2015 in December, on the 1st of December. And I remember saying to myself, oh, yep, we'd had Compassion sponsorship child, 1 or 2 for the whole time. We usually had 2 while you 2 were there, because we were like at least 1 for each of our kids. And in 2015, when we bought the business, I felt a prompting to go, hey, we should sponsor a kid for every person we've got working for us. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that sometime. And I remember a lady came to work for us, Andrea, great encourager, big heart. And I was telling her about it. And she's like, that's a great idea, da-da-da. She worked for me for 3 years. I still did nothing. We went through COVID, still did nothing. And it was only in October last year, might have been November last year, that I finally had the faith, I suppose. Because this is the other part, is I go, if it all goes to crap, I can sell my cars or I can pull back on certain things and I can do that sort of stuff. For me, it was if I'm sponsoring, so we sponsor 80 plus kids at the moment. The commitment to do that in my head was like, if everything goes terrible in the business, it's going to be hard to ring little Sally and go, hey, I've got to pull up stumps on giving to you because I've got to keep my car. And, you guys will be all right, I'm sure. So that faithful step to be obedient, that took me a long time. Whilst I was fulfilling other stuff that I felt God had put on our heart to do, and within charities and within not-for-profits and churches and all this, and in individual giving, that one was a big step for us because it's like, that's an ongoing commitment.
Yeah, you can't just, as I said, it's hard to pull out of that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and So that's it. I don't think it ever goes away. I think you just get wiser. And I've found for me, the Bible says that where your treasure is, there your heart goes also. And so most people, their issue within the church and within whatever is they're not actually giving into it. So their heart's not there. And it's very easy to criticize something you don't have a heart in. It's like being married or whatever and stopping sowing into your spouse. Then you become critical because it's all about what you're supposed to get out of it and what they're supposed to be doing for you rather than building the relationship together and realizing that you are the married couple. And it's like the same as in the church. It's like whenever I feel like I'm getting questioned or challenged even and feel like money's trying to get me, I'll give more. I'll find something somewhere that I can give, whether it's into church, into a charity, into something, because I go, it's starting to get me. Yeah. I feel like it's holding, like I've got a fear there and I shouldn't have a fear there. So I'll move towards that and that releases me of its hold.
That's awesome. That's, really good advice, I'd say. To build onto it, another part of the business, I feel it might be also in question, is like keeping your integrity and morals and stuff like that. Like I feel like in the business world, obviously I don't know that much, but from what I've heard, like that mindset of what is it, like stepping on others?
To get up.
Yeah. Like how do you avoid doing that? Or like, because I feel like it's easy to do that at some points.
Yeah.
How are you keeping your Christian morals and just morals and not doing that?
I probably haven't succeeded every time. I still remember being at a mining expo and we had a display with stubby coolers and caps, and I was calling to people that had our opposition caps on and saying, I'll swap you one of our caps and 2 stubby coolers for that cap which they just got given. And they would give it to us and I'd pull the leather out, put it through the middle of the cap, slice it and hang it on the back of this. We had a sprint car on display and we had a collection of scalps. Now, looking back, that was just young and being whatever. These days, knowing what that costs to do that promotional stuff, I wouldn't insult a company and do that to them now. I thought it was funny at the time. It was probably immature. As far as integrity goes, there's been times where I've been faced with decisions to do stuff certain ways, or to even fight back in an aggressive way to stuff that I feel like it's been done wrong to me. I think there's times and places. I'm not one of those Christians that's all about meek and mild and totally a pushover, and we're insipid and inept, and we can't actually stand up for ourselves. No, all throughout the Bible there's righteous anger. It's when you do it out of that makes it wrong, I suppose. So there's ways and means of doing stuff and standing up for yourself. I would just be continually checking where you're at, or ask people. I got good people in my world that when I'm faced with a decision that I think, right, I'm just going to go and slash their tires, so to speak. Extreme example, it's not what I'm going to do. But,
Totally. No doubt.
But I go and talk to them about it, and a lot of the times, whilst you're airing it, you start to go, oh, yeah. But there's people that have been through this stuff before, and they'll have something wise to say. Dad, your granddad has always been good. I'll talk to our pastor because he has a spiritual insight that I don't see a lot of the times, because he's been given as a cover for me. So he doesn't even have to have any business acumen, but he can get a word that I'm not going to get because God's seen if I'm submitted. So it's like I'll ask them and talk to them about it, and that sort of stuff helps me temper what I'm about to do. And I have a business coach who is a Christian, so his morals are the same as mine. He's not about trying to shortcut stuff.
Bless you.
And I've listened to a lot of people. If you get the chance, he's old school now, but Zig Ziglar, he talks heaps on value, keeping your values, keeping your integrity. They actually run a whole university course on business integrity because it lacks so much now in business. But you can't do right and not have it come back in the long term. It's one of the laws God put in place. So it's like what you sow, you will reap. So it's like people forget that and they'll go off on tangents. So it's one of those ones I've held on to a lot of times, and I can tell you many a times where I thought I was being unjustly dealt with and kept getting that one word of what they say they'll reap. If you sow grace in this moment, you'll reap grace in this moment. And it's turned out not in the time frame always that I wanted, but I can tell you our business that we have, some of the relationships we have now that are big relationships that have massive impact into my world. There was opportunity numerous times to sever those relationships because of stuff the other person had done that I could have went, I'm justified to get bitter and hurt here and leave. And it would have robbed me, not them. It would have robbed me of what's come out of it.
Yeah. Good answer. I think that'll help a lot. That's a good one.
Just getting emotional thinking about it.
Yeah.
With the last question or two, and we'll make them quicker.
Okay.
If we can, just because we're about to run.
Oh, I get the message.
Hurry up.
Yeah.
Do a
Just answer the question.
How would Nana say it?
Yeah. Gee, other people would finish this in a timely manner.
Man, usually we'd be finished by now.
Other people don't ramble as much. Weird.
No. This question is a really good one, and I think it's going to bring a lot of value because it's something that we've discussed, even like on our camps and stuff. We talk about it, or we talked about it, and it was a question where like we don't really know the answer, or no one talks about it. We feel like no one talks about this.
No pressure.
And I feel like there's an obvious answer though, so it's kind of like, I don't know, we'll see. But you talked about mum and you, like not doing anything before marriage. I'm not trying to get into details or specifics with this question. I don't want to know what happened. But it was good. In your opinion, now, like where you're at, what now? Where is the line, like before sex? Because obviously there's like this thing of, don't do sex, but there's plenty of other things that you can do.
Yeah.
Or that isn't sex. Where's, in your opinion, like where's the line of things you can do? Like, I don't know, like, that's what I mean. It's a weird...
No, I
there
understand.
are like multiple...
I think there's probably a couple of multiple answers to it, so I'll give you a couple of quick ones. One is a good one, which I thought was really funny, and it makes you second guess. It's like, if you couldn't sit in front of her mum and do it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. And if you could sit in front of her mum and do some of the stuff you're doing, you probably need to assess the whole relationship because that's a bit weird. So that's probably a good little boundary keeper, is going, okay, would I sit here and do this if her mum or dad or my mum or dad were in the room right now? Like, would we be doing what we're doing? If the answer is no, you probably already know the answer. The second one that I think is valuable is when we got married, I'd been the first guy that your mum had kissed, and everything else that follows that, I suppose. And then the same on our regard, it was like from a certain point, everything that I'd done has only been with your mum. And I remember it weighing on me at one stage going, oh man, how much more intimate, more special would it have been if even I'd never even kissed another girl? And it sounds extreme. It sounds weird, especially in a day and age where it's like anything sort of goes beforehand, especially in our current culture. However, I think it's because we've lost the value of that sacred thing of marriage, and that it is this one, meant to be this one intimate relationship that you have with no one else. And so to be able to explore that to the fullness with someone else who has never explored it with anyone else would be cool. So in my headspace, it's like, oh, where's the line? What's the thing? As strong as you can draw the line, I think the better for you long term. Yeah. Does that make me sound like an old fuddy-duddy? Probably. Whatever. But for me, I just know that was something that I thought about. And then the added part of that was talking with friends, etc., that had either slept around or done other stuff, etc., with other partners and whatever. And now that they're married and seeing throughout their marriage the challenges that are presented because of their past experiences that weren't all bad. However, now they play into their own self-expectations, their thought patterns of, oh, Miller's been with X amount, I hope I'm being as, or did they ever do? And it's like all these question marks that don't need to be there if we'd actually honoured the fact that someday I'm going to marry the love of my life and I want to honour them with the best of me. And so that lifts the ante. I think a lot of the times we don't achieve stuff because we don't actually have a goal. So it's hard to say, well, I'm saving myself for marriage if you're not really saving yourself for marriage. Like if there's no actual intent, there's no actual reason to, there's no actual... and then just the other side of it is just God actually is holy. Like when they say the angels go around going, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. It's not like they just go, oh, God's holy. They are... That's the level, and nowhere else. It doesn't say loving, loving, loving is God, or giving and generous is generous. Nowhere do they repeat one of the characteristics of God more than He is holy, 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 which means there's actually an expectation which we never live up to. Hence, we need a savior. But there's value in honouring God and His word and going, okay, well, this is what He has placed in zone for our best life. And so to actually go, okay, well, I'm going to try and do that is pretty cool. And then we touched on it at the start of the podcast with how far, what's the line, what's the thing. Usually we are trying to find the line when we're trying to push the boundaries. If we've already got a goal and we're already honouring, then the heart space shouldn't be, how close can I get to damaging this relationship with God or with my partner, and before it's too far and I actually damage them. That's not a right thought pattern. No one in their right mind. I don't drive my car that I love and go, how close can I get to the cliff before I fall off? That would be stupid. We do. We laugh about it. And yet we do that a lot of the times in a lot of our life things. We go, well, how close? Well, if I go to do this activity and it's not really, but it's close, how far? And it's like, we wouldn't do that with anything else that we value. Why would we then take some of the most valuable relationships we have and risk them at such a level, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's without rambling.
That was good. Concise.
Yeah, concise.
That was good. Well, you know, Actually, no, that was... I had a joke in my head. But when you were talking about if you could do it in front of their mother, I was going to say, well, you did it in front of granddad.
Yeah.
So I think making out's all good.
Yeah, making out's all good. Yeah. Depends on you making out. I've seen some people making out and they just shouldn't make out with anyone. So they need help.
Yeah.
But yeah, not my problem, I suppose. I'm happy.
Well, yeah, that was good. I like that answer. I mean, I'm sure everyone can grab something from that. Very wisdom filled. I think that will probably do it. I mean, actually, to end it, maybe this could be good for you. Hey, it's on camera. It's done. What are your future goals and things you want to do? Maybe places you want to go.
Future goals.
Yeah.
I think we're in a shifting moment at the moment. So it's like business-wise, we're doing well. I want to step more into that CEO mentality so that we can actually have multiple businesses running and bringing in income. We've got a few investment things that we're doing, which hopefully will continue that passive income. But I'd love to increase what we're able to give. Like we said, we hit a goal this year that we did for the whole, that took us the just over 7 and a bit years to hit as far as what we give through the business. I would like to be able to give that in a year. So that's one of my big goals, I suppose, for growth and catalysts and drives to move forward. Now that you boys are out of the house, Jenni and I, our goals for our relationship are to go deeper than we've ever been. And so we've actually implemented like a marriage coach type setting. We've been doing a lot more work on our relationship now that there's less distractions around, and that sort of stuff. So that's an exciting prospect to see how deep that rabbit hole goes over the next 5 years, 10 years and onwards, as we purposely go, okay, well, we can make our marriage better and keep doing that. And then as we progress, I suppose, with young adult boys and that adjustment as a parent. As people may or may not know, Christian jumped out of a plane. No one told me that was part of the parental contract to watch your child jump out of a perfectly fine plane. So all these sort of things that as an adult now, or a father and a parent of adult children, and watching you guys make decisions, achieve things in life, not wanting to make mistakes. People are going to make mistakes, that sort of stuff. But to see you guys flourish and hope that we can be a part of that building in the future, that's an exciting future as well.
Yeah, nice. Really quickly off that.
Yeah.
Since you've gotten money and like you've been able to, you've just got money, and then having kids, Michael and I, where have you found the line between like spoiling us too much and then
is this to answer some of your critics?
Well, yeah, I just thought of it like today when I was in the shower. Like, have you found that line, or
it depends?
What's your opinion on it?
I think it depends on who you talk to, because I got some mates that go, "Oh, you're spoiling them. Yeah, kick them out and just let them fend." And I think there's value in that. I'm gonna show this clip to everyone. if the person is not actually progressing, then yes, there's a need to pull back and cut back, so that they will actually, like if you're not jumping out of the nest and not working and not whatever, like any eagle, you push the bird out of the nest, so that it actually has to fly. And you learn to fly, etc. Part of the moth or the butterfly getting out, pushing through, is what crystallizes and makes its wings strong enough to actually be able to fly. If it doesn't have the struggle getting out, it doesn't fly. They're two great analogies. However, in saying that, there's I think a responsibility as well to teach you guys to value, yes, what you're getting, etc. But you shouldn't have to start where I started. So the idea is that you'll still have the responsibility, you'll still have the diligence to deal with money well and to have a good work ethic, which you guys have proven wherever you have gone. They want you back, etc. That's all great, and you should be able to jump off my shoulders, not stand at my feet. So my thought pattern is, the reality is, the more you have, the more opportunities you have. The more opportunities you have, the more chances you have of actually succeeding. It's like we talk about it in rugby league all the time. If you're a 10-year-old that's already 6 foot tall, then you're immediately in the local representative team, the state representative team, etc. So that by the time you're 16, you've had nearly 10 times the training of the person that didn't make the rep team when they were 10 years old. Which means by the time they're 16, you should, just because of the opportunities that were presented to you because of your size, have better ball skills, have more exposure to plays and how to run plays and defensive strategies and all that sort of stuff than the person that hasn't done the training. That's my thought pattern. Is it's like, we're at this level, we've got this sort of opportunities presented to us because of where we're at now financially, which we weren't at a decade ago. I want you guys to have that exposure because I know what it did to me and changed my mindset. What was acceptable 10 years ago, before I went to my first trip overseas and had that encounter with an old guy there who's a great guy, good Christian guy in his 70s, retired 4 times, and then just decided he wasn't going to retire anymore. Still generous, still giving, started orphanages, a multi-millionaire, and still a great humble heart. And I go, that's who I want to be like, so that you can actually set things in motion. And he's set heaps of stuff up because of what's been on him from that age and released other people into it. That's what I think is the best part for you guys, is the opportunity is your eyes are open to greater things and you won't be satisfied with less because you've experienced good.
Well said. And I think that sums up the whole podcast. Very well said. I think hopefully if you're listening or watching, you have gained some sort of knowledge and some sort of I don't know what the word is, just knowledge. I mean, yeah, hopefully you've learned some stuff. If not, take away the giving mindset. I feel is very, like what you've illustrated, like talking about how much you're giving and just that, giving mindset. If you've taken nothing away, take that away. And yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed watching or listening. We love yous. Have a good week. Mr. Ryan, Gilbank father,
Thank
Dad.
you for having me.
Thank you for coming
Thanks for
on.
battling through, Miller. It's fantastic.
Everyone pray for Milsy. Pray for him. He'll be hopefully better by next week. In Jesus' name. And thank you again, Dad.
Thank you.